because the book is written very, as a first person, very stream of consciousness, almost in parts. You are, I assume, were not 17 at the time you wrote it. So how did you get in the mindset of a 17-year-old? How do you keep that prose in line with what we would expect the real Sid to say?
Well, I think there are a few tricks you use for that. I mean, one of which is research. You go listen to 17-year-olds. But I also think that as writers, our job is, if you are writing contemporary realism, then your job might be to understand a very specific patois and write in that patois. I think for those of us who write more broadly, the job is to inhale the flavor of being 17, but not necessarily to write it in a manner in which, because by the time you, for people that are listening to this and are not familiar with the process that we know, from the time you finish your draft till the time the book comes to the market can absolutely have an enormous gap. I mean, it can be a year, it can be 18 months, it can be 2 years, depending on if you're trying to shop it to traditional houses versus self-publishing, et cetera, so forth. So the more contemporary the language, the more you will date yourself incredibly quickly. So because it changes and kids will say, oh, that's so old, So, I think when I write, my job is to try to capture the emotions, the stresses of what it's like to be 17 in this world, much more so than trying to be the hippest 17-year-old in this world. And then part of it is you come up with your own language for it. Sid will talk about different things because she loves words. And so that's part of what I'm able to do, is do a lot of wordplay because she loves words. And so Sid will have an entire stream of consciousness on a word and why she likes it that has nothing to do with that word being 17-year-old hip. And on the other hand, you have to, again, because you're not trying to create the 1940s mystery that's been around forever, we're trying to create something that is of today. The other obligation in it is to say, okay, we have cell phones and we text and we don't write the whole entire sentence out in text. We probably don't use too many capital letters when we're doing it, et cetera, so forth. So then you have to create and respect that part of what makes it modern and current. And that's a lot of hanging out with people that live in that world. I believe you were telling me that, one of your smartest things when we first met, in exploring that world, was going in and substitute teaching.
Yes.
Because you're immersed in hearing people and hearing the language. I did not do that. I think it's absolutely brilliant. But there are other places, and you can sit in a mall and hear everything.
Where did you find your 17-year-olds to listen to?
Well, some of that came from when I started the series. I had younger nieces and nephews. They are sadly outgrowing 17. And I say sadly because they were very convenient.
How rude of them. You've got books to write. Come on.
That was my theory on it. But you go to malls and you hang out and you go to different places where you will find them. And some of it is your 17-year-olds at a certain point become your 17-year-olds. So you want to stay current. And the research in my books, Zero-Sum Game would not have been possible without the help of some very, very special people in the gaming community. And so some of that language comes from their help and their assistance and, teaching you how to say things so you sound not just correct, but my biggest goal at the end of whatever I write is that I don't put anything in a book that can't be done. I don't make it up for plot value's sake. It could be done. It might not be the way somebody would do it, but it could be done. And so I would write things and people would say, you can't do that. Like that technology doesn't exist. And then with that, you get their language and you get to build that into your vocabulary.